All right, it's 10 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning in the end of January. Welcome, everybody, to Washoe County Chambers. This is the regular board meeting for the Washoe County Board of Commissioners for January 28th. It is the time of the hour that we all get started here. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. We are joined this morning by the beautiful Melody Brown. She's with us here in the audience. Melody, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning? We forget all the time, too. You got some help out there. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's like being in a stadium.
I know. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. It's nice to have you joining us this morning as well. All right, with that, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Marcia Burke-Bigler, Vice Chair.
Here.
Kitty Jung.
Present.
Vaughn Hartung.
Here.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
County Manager Eric Brown. Present. Assistant District Attorney Paula Pirelli.
Here.
I'm Nancy Parent, County Clerk. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We appreciate it. All right, Mr. Manager, we are on to item 3.
Item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll call?
Certainly. Ms. Elise Weatherly, followed by Mr. Levi Hooper.
Good morning,
Good
Ms. Weatherly.
morning, Elise Weatherly, Washoe County resident. I just wanted to let you know I'm wearing an ugly shirt today. This is the band that my brother used to be in, and I'm the only one that wears it around town, and I will continue to wear it until I'm buried in it, okay? I wanted to ask you guys, first of all, there is another Love Church on the way, okay? I had a discussion with some guys this morning, the Love Church, whereas we forgive everybody, everything. And I went, well, what do you do with Richard Allen Davis then, who, you know, did that to that 12-year-old girl, and if he got back out of jail, he'd do it again. They had no answer. So what I would say is, well, we have a choice to make. We can either have a love church where everything is forgiven all the time, or we can have my favorite department in Washoe County, which is the judicial system. Okay, I like the district attorneys because I think there is such a thing as right and wrong. I think that if somebody does not ask for forgiveness, we do not have to just mandate it to them, right? The other thing, too, is that politicians have a really bad reputation, that they're not listening to people. Yeah, right? So what I would say is that I have seen some action on this board that makes me go, I don't think so. I think that there are some people actually in politics that do care. The problem is it's hard to please everybody, right? You can't do it. What I will say is that if I had a say in this community, I would make the person that designed the roundabouts stay and wait for the next car to go by forever. Because if you're there in Legends on a Saturday, you don't get in because people drive for themselves. I'm trying to teach this kid how to drive, but he wants to go by, he wants to follow the law. I go, you can't. You have to make sure that if you take a left-hand turn, if there's 2 lanes, you get into that right-hand lane right away or somebody's going to cut you off. He goes, that's against the law. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm in a quandary. Okay, I want him to follow the law, but I want him to be safe. The other thing, too, is that I will give you guys some reviews over the months and everything of good businesses and bad businesses if you want to listen to my word. I would never take a child to Excel Christian School because guess what? They don't follow the very Bible that they're supposed to be based on. They allow the bulliers to come in and bully, and then the bulliers, the ones that are bullied, get expelled. Yes, thank you, Christopher Daw here. I would like to say thank you to him. We can talk about quasi-truth in the love churches and every place else that say things that based on what they want to believe, you know, like we have to forgive everybody. Who doesn't ask for it. We'll talk about places. I'm doing music all over town with rest homes. I'm going to see which ones I'm going to go to. So far, the Fountains has got a heads up because those guys have fun. I would not take anybody to Hearthstone because their activities director treats people like poo between their shoe, under their shoe. So I won't be going there. I won't go to Life Care because they don't think a return call is vitally important, and they hire people to do jobs that they should not be doing. Okay, more later. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Levi Hooper, followed by Mr. Michael Pitkin.
Welcome, Mr. Hooper.
Hi, you guys. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So this morning, I just wanted to maybe give you all a little bit of history about myself. God, nervous for some reason. Weird. My name is Levi Hooper. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, and I grew up in a pretty rough area with my mom and dad were both heroin addicts and crack addicts, and I have a lot of brothers and sisters, 7, and one sister, 7 brothers and 1 sister myself. But anyway, what I'm trying to get to is my mom and dad were both addicts, and growing up like that, we were in foster care at 9 years old. And I was put into a group home until I was 17, and at 17, I ran away to live on my own. And at that point, I really got a good idea of a crappy life and living in the world through that sense, and it kind of humbled me towards a lot of things, as in, respecting people and being grateful for what you have. And another thing is staying off of drugs, and so with that being said, now after I moved to Reno, I came here to get work, what I originally came out here for, and I've never messed around with drugs or done anything like that yet. I was homeless for 5 years here in Reno on the streets, never done, nothing but try and thrive from that point. But I had no ID, no paperwork or anything to get myself ahead. So I was caught in the old, catch-22 homeless route, So after a year, about 5.5 years of being homeless, I lived in a 395 bridge here in Virginia Street Bridge for 5 winters. And the lady that her husband runs Senior Care Plus, she came up to me at Barnes & Noble when I was sitting there homeless and asked me if there's one thing in my life that she could change, and what would it be, And I said, my homeless situation. Well, she took me under her wing and let me move into her place pretty much, and worked on her ranch out in Palomino Valley for almost 2 years. And she helped me get all my stuff together, get off the streets and everything, and I've been off the streets since then. But since that happened to me, my Christianity and stuff, compels me to give back, and that's what I've always felt like doing. And I just have never had the means, or in the situation I was in, it was horrible to get out and of that situation. Anyway, so finally, after me being off the streets now, I told you guys last meeting that I have 2 people living in my place with me, 2 homeless guys. And they had no paperwork, nothing, when they came into my place. And since then, as it's about 8 weeks now, they both have jobs. I got their IDs. They got everything they need. Both of them, one got their first paycheck last Thursday, and the other one's getting his first paycheck Friday. So it's been really, really a great thing to see happen, So Jesus Christ bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Michael Pitkin, followed by Mr. Sam Dene.
My name is Michael Pitkin. HIV is a public health matter. For 4 years, I had to make my private life public in order to address discrimination and reverse discrimination here in Reno. No person living with HIV should have their health care held hostage by religion, politics, sex, or race. I spoke up, and I have paid the price for speaking up. As a homosexual, HIV-positive, theistic Satanist, I am confronted daily. Several years ago, a Latino man at the library said to me, "Eat up." I just ignored him, assuming he was harassing me for being fat and on food stamps. 5 years ago, my specialists were concerned about my kidneys. Here in Reno, I was ignored when I complained about pain. Last year, it abnormally intensified. I was having extreme pain. I could not sleep. My arms were going numb. Eventually, I could not even walk a half a block, and I was short of breath. I had about 50 heart attacks, and 10 laid me out flat on the sidewalk. Mind you, heart attacks do not happen at the same locations and at the same times. The word on the street is that advanced technology is being used against me. Again, my doctors here ignored me. It was at this point I remembered the man saying, "Eat up." Last year, I immediately stopped eating all food in my home. I stopped taking all medications. In this bag, I have $50,000 worth of medicines. If I have to save my life and ruin my kidneys, I will do it, even though I am being refused better meds that will not. When things get out of whack, sometimes you have to take a medication holiday. One day after I stopped, the pain in my kidneys went away. 5 days later, the pain in my back and spine went away. 2 weeks later, I could walk again, and the heart attack symptoms went away. Has someone poisoned me in my own home, or did my doctors violate their duty of care and refuse to listen to me, or both? I feel much better, even though I am heading into AIDS. I had to save my own life by taking my life into my own hands when doctors would not. I have made my story public for when this happens to someone else, and it will here. You all will pay attention. As leaders of my health care, this body is legally bound by a duty of care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitkin.
Mr. Sam Dene?
Welcome, Mr. Dene.
Thank you. Sam Dene, the guard angel against Reno media wacko freaks and against greedy government bureaucrats, some within the government and some outside of the government. You know, a tragic thing happened on Sunday. Kobe Bryant was involved in an accident and died, arguably one of the 5 greatest basketball players of all time. And all I can see on TV now is people talking about him and him talking himself. And the thing that I took away from what I heard him say, people ask him, why were you so driven? Why were you so driven? You already had success. What kept driving you? He said, every day I remembered that God gave me this brilliant, wonderful, God-given talent to be able to play basketball. And so every day I was driven to do the best for God because of the talent God gave me. It reminded me, put it in perspective of my life. I used to be an airline pilot and a fighter pilot, bomber pilot in the Air Force for 25 years. A damn good one. A really good pilot. Anyway, I had perfect flying safety record in every airplane I ever flew. Then my airline was blown out of business by the terrorist, and now I'm out on the street with a few dollars saved up and what to do with the rest of my life. Well, I found out, not overnight, but I found out that God gave me a God-given ability, a God, once-in-a-lifetime, God-given ability, a God-given ability to come to these podiums and castigate the media, wacko freaks, deservedly, like nobody in the history of the world. God gave me that ability. He also gave me the ability to oversee, for whatever reason, to oversee and try to have the right thing done by the government, the people who are overseeing the citizens. And I've done a really up and walking good job of that too. The media wacko freaks are the ones that deserve the worst castigation. So I throw them in there. And never will they, such cowards, they won't say, Sam needs therapy. Nothing. Scared to death of this 160-pound senior citizen. At any rate, so I've done so many things for this community, and I don't ask for anything. I made Don Roger Norman and Lance Gilman multi-millionaires. I made the Burning Man one of the most successful things. All those people making millions. Save the Air National Guard, all kinds of, and Edon over there, Colonel Kazmierski, I made him a millionaire. And I don't want anything, but you would think that just a typical person would say, you know, he did really a lot for me. I don't want to tell the world, but you would think they would have the courtesy and just the gumption to send me a few bucks now and then anonymously so I could put it in the collection plate at church. Any questions?
Thanks.
No?
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Dene.
spellbound and dumbfounded, and I want to thank the member up
Thank
there
you,
who
sir.
gave
Thank you, sir.
Levi Hooper a few bucks that he needed to help the indigent.
Thank you, sir. All right.
That's
Seeing-
all the public comment we have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any further public comment by anybody? Seeing no further public comment, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Mr. Manager, we're on to item 4, Commissioners and Managers announcements. Do you have anything this morning, sir?
Yes, I have a couple of items, if I could. First of all, I wanted to report out that Family Court is scheduled to come provide a report to the commission on March 10th, per the request from our last meeting. Secondly, as a follow-up really to the CHAB requests, Mr. Chair, that you also chair, I wanted to report that work has already begun between the three municipalities here, the county, City of Reno, City of Sparks, on a regional homeless strategy to go beyond our place. I know there's a update later from Amber Howell, but to see what kind of comprehensive plan would make sense for the region. Now, there'll be more to come, but that work has begun, as well as collaboration on the RFP for the Community Assistance Center. Third, I just wanted to provide an update to the commission that staff is continuing to work with the other municipalities on the lands bill. There was actually a meeting last Friday, stakeholder groups here. Commissioner Herman, I believe, was there, along with other stakeholders. And we're actually launching a website, landsbill.org, which will provide a repository of information and resources for folks who are interested in this topic, which will include a section for comments. Folks from the public want to go weigh in on the lands bill, they'll be able to do so at that site for all to see. Those are my updates for this week, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, commissioners. Commissioner Herman, I have you signed in first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back a few months, we had some folks in here by the name of Hilliers, and they are under a lot of pressure from the county to remove a semi-trailer. So they're quite interested in seeing us bring our bill forward on containers and semi-trailers, because if by the 1st of March we haven't done something, they will have to find the money to have somebody haul their semi-trailer off their property in Cold Springs, and they won't have a place to store all their things. It'll be out in the ground. So I am hoping that we can get that up and ready and do something about it one way or the other, so they know and have some time to work on that. And second item is Mrs. Stobiecki, or she's got her own name, which starts with an H, and she is the alternate for the bias CD, and we need to get her approval taken care of. So that needs to be on the agenda very soon, because she's running on empty right now. So, and then the next thing is we've been meeting with the Sheriff's Department, or I have been, and the BLM, Parks, and a few others, Health Department, and on this homeless camps and illegal dumping. And they would like, I had a call from BLM, from Lisa Ross down at BLM in Carson, and they would like to do a presentation. If we could give the Sheriff's Office 10 minutes and the BLM 10 minutes, because they're doing the work that we asked the Sheriff's Department and everybody to do, and we really need to figure out how we can help that. So I like that. That'll be March 17th is when they'll be ready to present.
Great.
So that's a specific date. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Commissioner Hartung, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To dovetail on Commissioner Herman, what she's referencing is the operable vehicle code, and I know Mr. Solero is working on it. And there's a whole bunch of pieces to that code, but I I'm hopeful that we'll be bringing that forward fairly soon. With respect to some of the homeless issues, the SO has and I don't know what they're called, and you would know, Mr. Chairman, the stretched frame buildings, and they have an aluminum frame.
Oh, yeah.
And they have one that they are going to pay someone to take away. And I would like to talk to the sheriff, hopefully in an open meeting, about how we might be able to utilize that, try to locate a parcel somewhere and reskin it and use it for some temporary shelter. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I have on my list is recently the city of Reno heard the Mortensen Ranch project, and it was denied. This is not a comment on whether it should have been approved or denied. That's not what this is about. They brought up that they could not get an auto aid agreement signed with us and asked for people to reach out to us and write us letters. And I would like, in our next fire meeting, I know this is not commission, this is fire business, but it is commission business because we're ready to sign that auto aid agreement. And we've been ready for years. We're more than willing to sign an auto aid agreement. So I wanted to make that public. I believe it's important that the chief bring that back at potentially our next meeting. When we go to our next joint meeting with the city of Reno, perhaps we can have it in hand and ready to sign. Then an interesting, this is kind of an interesting thing that was brought up. I was on a phone call, a joint meeting phone call with conference with Resilient Counties through NACO. And they talked about a number of issues, but this one really struck me as something that we need to just pay attention to. So BlackRock Holdings, which is, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I looked the number up, a $7 trillion, trillion with a T, dollar investment company, and they invest in municipal bonds and all sorts of things throughout the world. And this is what really struck me. If a municipality or a county does not have a climate action plan in place, they will reduce their bond rating. And and now most of the places that this was relevant to were, of course, coastal. Florida and, California and other places, South Carolina, some of our southern coast down in Texas, of course, and those areas where sea level rise will really affect them. But it's just something that needs to be on our radar, potentially to just look at and how it might affect our bond ratings. And do we need to have something in place that we work collectively with the region to have a climate action plan? And I don't know what it looks like for us because we don't have the same issues, but we do have issues in terms of the time of year that we would potentially store water, which Tom was looking at right now. Look at the warm weather that we're dealing with. Fire, of course, yes, thank you, Commissioner Jung. Those are all things that a climate action plan could potentially look at. And so I just think it's something we need to have on our radar. I sent it to Christine Valetich. There was I Googled it, sent her some information, and I also sent the treasurer some information. So we're kind of keeping track of this, but it's just something that needs to be on our radar. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am going to piggyback a bit on what Commissioner Herman and Commissioner Hartung mentioned. Last Tuesday evening, we had our first Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board, and my estimate, 50 to 60 citizens were there. So well attended, even though not usually their normal time to go to a cab. So what I would like to request staff to do is to reach out to the chairwoman, who is Carmen Ortiz, who also serves on the Sun Valley GID, and ask her if they would like to identify a time and date preference. And we'd also like to have these monthly, these meetings, because the issues there have been tabled, I believe, and have evolved because of it. And it's not just in this region, it's all across the county as well. And we really need the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and this commission to get on the same page in terms of what can we legally do with abandoned vehicles, abandoned garbage, abandoned scrap metal, et cetera, because we are right now at an impasse. We can't get, if we don't get the title, it goes on and on and on. And that's what people did at the meeting to the citizens, the proxies for the sheriff's office. And it wasn't very helpful. It was more or less telling the Citizens Advisory Board there's not much we can do, and I don't believe that. Commissioner Herman brought up a great idea when I was there speaking to her in the back, and that was because abandoned vehicles are an issue countywide, it just happens to be a favorite place is Sun Valley, up into the valleys, the hidden valleys up there. Let's identify some, actually I would like a report back of all property that Washoe County owns that is bare dirt, because if we could just take the vehicles and put them somewhere, and then let the DA do their due diligence to find the title owner, and on and on and on. And remember, it's because scrap metal has no commodity value right now. If there was any value, any of that, it would not be out in the desert sitting there, right? So that's just the vagaries of what the economy and how much commodities are worth. But it is countywide. It is not just in the North Valleys. We're finding abandoned vehicles all over this valley in our pristine open spaces, and we need to find a place to put them and to work on them from the legal standpoint as well as the punishment standpoint if there is anywhere to go there. But in the interim, they need to go somewhere and not sitting on people's property. People are having issues. We had a senior veteran, doesn't make him any more compelling, but it sure compelled the audience, who was weeping because somebody had taken a car and put it on his property. He called, and they called to have it towed, and it was $250 for a car that was put on his property without his permission, beyond his fence even. They were so bold, they opened the gate and put the car on there. So we need to get on this sooner rather than later. This is something that staff's been working on for years, and we can't get it anywhere. It needs to be done up here at this dais with the elected sheriff and the elected district attorney so that people can get the information straight from us as well as the interim solution while we are working on that. And as I want to say it again, it's not just for Sun Valley, but I do want to see where all of our bare dirt property is as well. So if we could find out from talking to the citizens of Sun Valley, I know we have these immediate polls that I haven't seen any use of. Can we use those and see where and please let's ask the chair of the CAB rather than us telling her what to do. What's the best time for people to meet? I know before when the CAB was very active and met every month, we had 60 to 100 people every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. So let's find out when these people would like to meet, where the most of the community can get out to actually participate in their government. And then Mr. Manager, if we could work on, I know that you being here new with new eyes, I would like to start keeping a list together for policy identification that needs to be changed or policy that needs to add additions at that global level for the Washoe County. And that includes public records, that includes monuments, and that also includes more input, if we could, from our assessor for highest and best use as a consideration of how we are evaluating land development proposals. He has a compelling argument. We probably would do well to have him come present to us. He's given me 2 books to read. They're not very exciting, so it'd be more exciting if he came and did a 10-minute. I'm trying to get through them, but there's so many good books right now. If he could come up here and give us, because I think that should inform how we make decisions too. Is this the highest and best use for this piece of property when we are looking to make some land use changes? And he has the full gamut and can explain it without notes and without looking at the I consider sort of boring material, to let us know if we're on the right track. I think he should have, not a sign-off, but information for us every time we're looking to do a land use change. And that also gets he's an elected official, you guys all vote for him as well. It gives him some ability to explain to us why an assessor is so important as an elected official, guiding us in terms of how to use land use. So those are my requests at this time, Mr. Manager, and I do want to make an announcement. I do believe that my homeboy, Mr. Paulie Liparelli, is his last meeting today, and he and I have been on this together for a long time, and I consider him a dear friend, and I will miss him desperately, but I know he'll be involved at some level, shape, or form. I've also been in cahoots with him for years, trying to get him a judgeship. I tried to get him county manager. I mean, poor Paul, every time he answers the phone, is probably like, what do you want? And he told me one time, don't ever do that to me again, because I just spent 3 weeks ripping my hair out, figuring out what I want to do next. But I want to tip my hat to you, and I'm sure going to miss you. Thanks for all your wise counsel, and thanks for always being a friend when I needed you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Commissioner Herman, I have you signed in again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit more on the sheriff and the BLM. They're going to come with some very solid plans. So it's going to be a very good meeting on the 17th of March.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Berkeley, do you have anything this morning? I know. Well, we'll give it. So I got a couple things I want to add under Commissioner announcements. We'll get right to business here pretty quick. First of all, I want to wish happy birthday to Commissioner Jung. She celebrated a birthday just last Saturday, so happy birthday to you, ma'am. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed your birthday. Also, it is Mr. Liparelli's last meeting with us, and we will have a little bit of fun with him today. We're going to try to make him work extra hard. I think he purposely made the agenda short, though, so that he could get out of here early. It's whatever his deal is, but we'll figure something out. Mr. Manager, I would like to reach out. Hopefully somebody from the Sheriff's Office is watching the meeting this morning. I do want to talk to the Sheriff on the sheriff, either on the squad, the patrol command. I want to find out, is it legal to make U-turns on Mount Rose Highway once again in the Mount Rose corridor between Thomas Creek and Wedge Parkway, you know, with the high school and busing from out of the Rolling Hills areas, and with the new developments we have in there, and also the Durrell School Academy, we have individuals coming out, heading east on Mount Rose Highway, which is down the hill, but then making U-turns and going back up the hill instead of going down to Wedge Parkway. It's very dangerous. Once again, we've talked about this continuously in this year. There's been reports in the paper, and we've heard it here from the Washoe County School District, how many children have been hit just in pedestrian accidents and car accidents. But when you start putting kids in situations where they're making either illegal U-turns, and young drivers or even parents, I want to talk to the sheriff about that and have those discussions. I want to talk to him about your sprung structure. I think that's a great idea. The sprung structure in the back of the sheriff's office just needs new tarping in certain spots, but could be utilized very easily and moved for a emergency shelter. So I'd like to look into that, and then we will definitely agendize the BLM sheriff's issue and get that on the agenda. That is all I have for right now. Commissioner Hartung, do you have something else?
I do. I was told, I have a call in to the undersheriff. I was told that they're going to pay to get it hauled away. So I mean, I think that this is a perfect opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, if we can somehow get that and figure out a place, even a temporary place that we can put it, it could be a wonderful temporary shelter.
All right. Seeing no other comments from any of the commissioners or the manager at this time, we will close Commissioner and County Manager announcement. We're on to our consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda this morning, Commissioners, that you would like to have further discussion about or pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hartung, seconded by Commissioner Berkbigler. Commissioner Jung,
So we were just.
Commissioner Jung, do you have anything? No? All right. Madam Clerk, do I have any public comment on any of the items in the consent agenda?
I have no one signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes on the screen. Madam Vice Chair, do you have a block vote for us this morning?
No.
I've got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do. Actually, I propose that we put items 7, 8, and 9 into a block vote.
Okay, I have a motion for a block vote for items 7, 8, and 9. Mr. Manager, will you read those items for us, please?
Item 7, recommendation to approve role change request pursuant to NRS 361-765 and/or NRS 361.768 for errors discovered on the 2016, 2017, 2017, 2018, and 2018, 2019, and 2019, 2020 secured and unsecured tax rolls. Authorize chair to execute the changes described in Exhibits A and B, and direct the Washoe County Treasurer to correct the errors. Cumulative amount of decrease to all taxing entities is $167,218.93. The assessor. Item number 8, recommendation to approve the owner CMR construction agreement between Washoe County and Q&D Construction LLC for guaranteed maximum price, number 4, for site improvements for the Our Place homeless housing project in the amount of $1,119,468, and if approved, authorize a deductive change order in the amount of $244,841, reflecting a reduction in scope of work. Community services. Item 9, recommendation to approve the purchase of a Commvault backup solution for Zones LLC, retroactive to December 20th, 2019, at a cost of $205,242.13. Tech services.
Mr. Manager. All right. Madam Clerk, do I have any public comment signed in on any of these 7th, 8, or 9?
I had Mr. Sam Dene signed in on agenda item 8, but it appears that he has left chambers.
All right. We do not know Mr. Dene, so we will close public comment. I do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes on your screens. Motion carries. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. So we are on to, we're going to jump back to item 6. Mr. Manager.
Item 6 is an update, discussion, and possible direction regarding the Washoe County Our Place project, and Amber Howell from the Human Services Agency is here. Welcome, Amber.
Good morning, Ms. Howell.
Good morning, Chair Lucy and Commissioners. I'm going to give an update on the Our Place project. We're making lots of progress. We've learned a lot of history about the campus, which I think is really important to also talk about, and then some of the timelines and when we're going to get this thing up and running. So this is the campus as it sits. I know I've shown you this a number of times, but what is interesting is over the summer, we did some flips with the state to make our location in the southeast corner so we weren't spread out all throughout the campus. That helps us, obviously, with centralization of services, but it also helps with security and fencing and lowering those costs because we're not all spread out. And so it gives us a nice intake area, and then it also embeds all of our Crossroads programs into that one location as well. So it's worked out really well. A little bit of history. Of course, many of you know that this campus and all of those buildings have been around for a very long time. So it is actually 92 acres of land that the NAMS campus sits on. It was deeded to the state back in the 1800s, so a very long time ago. And it was actually built for the benefit of mentally ill individuals and the disabled. The campus was about 3 miles from Reno, and Sparks didn't actually exist at the time. So just a little bit of fun Nevada history. How this campus came to be back in the 1800s is it was the first Nevada insane asylum, actually, as they called it back then. And it opened its doors in July 1st, 1882, and it was to house 160 patients. Most of the individuals arrived by train at 4:30 in the morning from Stockton, California, where they were previously sent and treated. And all of the Nevada counties started sending all of the individuals experiencing mental illness and couldn't care for themselves, sent them to this campus where they were to live the rest of their life and eventually pass. So there was also a huge farm on the campus, which is pretty symbolic since we're trying to put soulful seeds back there. And it also became a resting place for 800 patients over the years. They've been moved since then. But I think one individual in particular, the first person that was buried at the Our Place campus, his name is William Place, and he died of Bright's disease. And so that's actually how we came up with the name Our Place, because we wanted to name it something that was symbolic of what we were trying to do, but also to honor those that experience mental illnesses and how we can do a better job in how we treat them and get them back to a place of independence. Lakes Crossing, of course, is still on the campus, and the Deanie Townsend Hospital, but it is north of the Our Place campus. These are all of your previous board actions. We've been in front of you a lot. I obviously won't read them because you were there for those, so it just gives you a good understanding of when the leases came online and when we started really getting the project going. Although we first did our lease back in 2018, we didn't really have a final lease until in August 2019, so it seems like a really long time, but we've made tremendous progress when we really didn't have a final one till last summer. So I think that's important to point out. And these are just the rest of the board actions. I would like to mention that Grace Church has continued to help donate, especially to 8C, which is going to be the 18 to 24-year-old population. They gave us $300,000 to rehab that building and a much-needed service for that age group, and so they've continued to contribute in the Our Place campus as well as overall Crossroads. Here is our team that we have. I think it's really important to recognize two people individually. One is Kim Schweiker and the other is Bill Wardell. Bill Wardell's actually a social worker in a CSD body. We have just, he has really taken this project and he has embraced it. And what an amazing human, what he has done to come together. And Kim and her work, they work on this every week, several hours a day to get this up and running. And so they're really the boots on the ground and the reason why we are on schedule and making tremendous progress. So I think it's important to recognize their hard work. Here's our milestones. So we signed the lease. The approval, the construction began on September 9th, 2019, so shortly after the lease. The anticipated construction completion is around May 15th. We know construction timelines can vary a little bit, but that is the targeted date, and sometime after those buildings come online, we will start transitioning the women, children, families, and the daycare to that location. The project design is actually, the architect is Paul Cavan. He has a lot of history with the state of Nevada. He has done a lot of the buildings there, so that was a pretty synergistic relationship to have him on board with us. These were the GMP design plans. We had to do designs, of course, before we started ripping down walls, and as you can see, all of the designs for all of the buildings are completed as of today. This is the staffing plan that we came in front of you last spring. You approved 25 individuals to be placed at the Our Place campus, not only to have caseworkers and mental health professionals, but also IT and maintenance workers to make sure that we had the infrastructure to respond to opening such a big campus. This is the construction timeframe for all of the buildings. You'll see that 8C, 603, and 604 are the ones that are happening right now. So 8C will be the first to open. That's the 18 to 24 population. And then you can see all of the other buildings and their timeframes. It's going very well. We seem to be on schedule and haven't had any major hiccups with some very, very old buildings, and continue to work with the state of Nevada when we run into any challenges. Some of the benefits for the state, this isn't just a relationship with the state to obtain buildings, but the campus also provides security to the state campus where they also have their programs. We, of course, are renovating very old buildings and did a huge cleanup. The sheriff's office had an inmate crew go there and do all of the work to clean up the area that hasn't been cleaned up in probably decades. And so the state of Nevada is receiving an $11 million investment of county money, and we're doing this together, but I think this is a huge benefit to them as well, as we find a different way to have new models to address the homeless situation. Some of the goals of Our Place, of course, is to start bringing in mental health and substance abuse services, decrease our admissions to jails. Recently, as of last week, we placed a social worker full-time up at the jail. We think that's an important piece that has been a gap in our system for a very long time. So once any of those inmates leave the Parr Boulevard location, they will be set up and can either go to Our Place, to Record Street, or into Crossroads. I know that's something that Commissioner Hartung has wanted to see for a long time, having that relationship. And so full-time, we now have a social worker there. We also have a significant amount of interest from the Department of Employment and Training and Rehabilitation from the state of Nevada, so they would also like to park on the Our Place campus. We know employment is a huge piece of independence, and so we're really excited about bringing them on board and starting to partner with the University of Nevada, Reno to set up a medical clinic also on site so that everything is in one location. This is the structure, current and final. The men's shelter, of course, all men will remain downtown, with the exception is if they are a family. I think that there's a misperception out there that families don't mean men. Fathers, single fathers with their children can reside at the Our Place campus, as well as moms and dads with their kids. So you will see the women's shelter has a 50 census capacity. We're going to increase that by 114 at the Our Place campus. And then the child care center is also doubling. It's not only going to be open for residents that are located on the campus, but for anyone who has a child care need that has a difficult time because it's very costly. So our future expansion needs, I know I'm out of time, is the therapeutic garden, of course, from Soulful Seeds, the need to start addressing transitional housing of where are these individuals going after they leave the Our Place campus, of course, the healthcare piece that we're working on, and the employee and training rehabilitation that I've talked about. This is our new One Place sheet, so we can start educating the community on what is Our Place. There's a lot of confusion out there of how it differs from the Record Street location, and it gives some very good statistics of the success that we have in the family shelter piece of Record Street. There's an 80% success rate of families at Record Street as compared to the rest of the population. And so that model is being replicated at Our Place. It is proven to be very effective. We also did some data mining through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the HUD ratings. And our shelter status in Northern Nevada is 272. That's our rating. The lowest number of rating is 273, so we're second to the bottom. And so that is something for us to pay attention to as we move forward and change our model to make sure that we increase better outcomes for our population. You will all get a copy of this when it goes to print, but I just wanted to show you some of the outreach efforts that are also happening as we move forward in the next several months. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Howell. Well, wonderful presentation this morning. All right, we'll take some questions from the commissioner. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Howell. I'm so excited about this project. It's really a fabulous project, and you've done yeoman's work with you and your staff. Thank you for everything you're doing and the work you're doing with the governor and the state and everything. I'm curious, I know there was some holdup with the state with regard to sulfur seeds. Have we been able to climb over whatever their concerns were, and how quickly will we be able to get that moving?
Amber Howell for the record. We are not done climbing. There was a state master planning process that started at the NAMS campus. There was an architect that was hired to figure out what the state was actually going to do with the NAMS campus. That report was supposed to be done around December, and that hasn't been finished yet. And so they are communicating to us that until that plan is provided to the state, they can't authorize any additional projects on that campus. We did tour Governor Sisolak on the Our Place campus and told him about that, and he seemed to have interest in that area. It's just right on the street, and there's nothing planned to go there, so we're continuing to be optimistic.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Howell, I appreciate you bringing up Crossroads. This isn't directly related to this, Mr. Chair, but it is something that is related to Crossroads, and that is, this really comes more back under Commissioner comments, but Renown reached out to me again. I didn't reach out. I saw Dr. Slonim at an event, the EDON event, and he expressed a desire again to own the old ME's office and now wants to trade a parcel by Crossroads, the existing Crossroads. So that's this. I think this can all tie back together. And I didn't know this. Bright's disease is actually a form of kidney disease. I did
Yes,
not know
I
that.
actually had to look that up.
Yeah, so did I. Acute kidney disease. I did not. Chronic nephritis is what it's listed as. So just something.
Thank you for
trivia.
Thank you for the information, sir. Ms. Howell, I have to thank you tremendously for the time and effort, but Ms. Schweigert, you are here with us this morning, and I also want to note that Kim has put a ton of time into this, and Kim, thank you for all the dedication you've put into this project. I know this has been your life's work for the last couple of years, and I really appreciate the time and helping with Amber and doing that. And Bill is tremendous. I mean, these three individuals really have been the pillars of this project and making sure this thing comes online, from meetings with the state to contractors to organizations. It's been tremendous. So my hat is off to you. I'm excited to see this come online sooner rather than later. This will be, I believe, an answer to a growing problem in our community and in our region. But I think this is just one part of the step. This is one step. And I think that this is something that we'll see continually need to evolve. But I think this shows the county's commitment to innovative ideas and willingness to really participate in solutions instead of complaining about problems. We're really innovative in bringing problems. What I'd like to see is one of the things that I did participate, I got the opportunity to participate, which I mentioned in the last meeting, was the Thriving Communities for a Better Southern Nevada, which is the workplace and workforce development issues that they were dealing with in Southern Nevada, but it directly relates to what we're doing at Our Place. Housing these individuals and getting them that first step out of homelessness or out of a stage is just part of the process. It's that rehabilitation and that programming that is the next step. And when you look at some of the statistics just from Las Vegas, when they talk about their region, some of the challenges are mothers with daycare. We are the overseers of all licensing of daycare through the Department of Human Services. You see children that are underemployed, or are aging out teens that may not have the education nor the training to go get workforce training and find that next step to be able to provide for themselves, which leads to a path. And so what I'd like to do, but what happens when we don't address these issues is that we're very fortunate today to have our elected official district attorney, Chris Hicks, with us. But I'd like to see the manager, this commission, the DA, the sheriff, Ms. Howe, all come together and kind of workshop some ideas of how we can continue to grow our place so that it really comes into more of a crossroads style for everybody. Workplace development. And there are a number of grants out there through SNAP grants, through the TANF grants. There is money out there through the state and through the federal government that we could utilize if this body and this commission works together and goes after those grants with the state. There's 30 some odd million sitting there. If we can go and work on those scope of work, that is something that we can collaboratively work together and create those efficiencies that really helps move the needle and change the outcome for so many of these individuals. And so it means less population in our jail. It means less prosecution for our DA's office. It means less time in our judiciary, which is already strained as it is. It means less time for your social workers to be chasing down individuals. These are the kind of problems we want to solve. So those are my comments. I think that you've done a lion's share of the work. To see this program come online when you just started construction in September, and to see that we're going to actually have it up by sometime mid-spring, that's impressive. So if we can build buildings and retrofit and work with the state and get those things aligned in a short period of time, the sky's the limit. And so I'm going to work diligently. I'd like to work with you and go back when we go back with meet with the federal government next month. I'd like to meet with I have some of these meetings set up already, but I'd like to try to set something like this up to connect even the business community here as well, and try to do workforce training through the chamber and different things to bring that stuff online as well. I think it needs to be a community effort realistically. If we're going to sit there and complain that homeless needs to be dealt with, then we're all going to have to get our hands dirty and come to and figure out a solution together. And I think this is the way we do it. And I think I want to thank you and Ms. Schweiger and all the staff that has participated on making that foundation that first step for us. So thank you. Madam Vice Chair, I have you signed in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You really kind of triggered an issue that I've been dealing with lately on a couple of different levels. But it's so important for us to realize that our homeless problem is partly created by our housing problem. Because if you're making $10, $15 minimum wage or whatever, you can't afford an apartment. You can't afford to buy a house. And so one of the things we really need to do is exactly what you're talking about, and that is to uptrain our residents, our citizens. And this is a good place to start it, right there at that project, where we're uptraining these people who are now moving into our campus so we can take an opportunity to get them so that they can actually get the $20, $30 an hour jobs. So that's such an important part of this whole thing, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that needs to be at the top of our priority list.
Well, and Commissioner Berkeley, I think you're absolutely right. When we see for example, the sale of Harris Reno, and they're going to forego their gaming license. That is one gaming property, which means dealers, which means a number of individuals that have entry-level jobs that are going to be integrating themselves back into the workforce. And with our change in our economic landscape here and all the companies that are infiltrated into the region, why are we not integrating them into the discussion in regards to how we go? And I know they've been willing to do that. Look, Switch and Tesla, they've worked with the TMCC, but there's got to be something more out there that we can help these individuals, because when you're paying $1,000 a month for a studio apartment, you talk to a waitress, They can't afford that. To Commissioner Burke, to the Vice Chair's point, that it's just impossible. So we need to do what we can. If we're going to provide these places, the next step is the services and training these individuals. And there are programs through the federal government we can do. And so let's take advantage of that, and let's start working with the manager to unify the region and really getting these electeds together and making this an initiative to focus on, because it seems to be coming top of mind every conversation I have with somebody. What are you doing about the homeless? What are you doing about the homeless? Well, this is what we do. We go and we fix. We try to retrain, and we try to provide people a true life, a step in the right direction. So thank you for all your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming this morning. All right. All right, Mr. Manager, we are on to our first public hearing of the morning. This is item 10.
Item 10, public hearing regarding regulatory zone amendment, case number WRZA 19-0006, Lifestyle Homes, to adopt a regulatory zone amendment from low-density suburban, LDS 1 dwelling unit per acre maximum, to medium-density urban suburban, MDS 3 dwelling units per acre maximum. Master plan suburban residential in the Cold Springs area plan on 2 parcels of land, APN 566-041-01 and 02, totaling approximately 14.05 acres for owner applicant Lifestyle Homes TND LLC. If approved, authorize the chair to sign the resolution to that effect. Community Services.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. We have Ms. Olander with us this morning. Is there any need by any of the commissioners for a presentation on this? Seeing none. Commissioner Herman, this is your district? No. Ms. Olander, do you want to come up really quickly?
Good afternoon, Julie Olander, from Planning and Building.
Just really quick, I guess, we don't really need a presentation, but I have a quick question for you. This was approved by the Planning Commission, was it not?
Correct, it was.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Olander. Madam Clerk, do I have any public comment signed in on this item?
We have no one signed in,
All
sir.
right. Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board. At this time, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Herman, second from Madam Vice Chair. Seeing no further public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, Commissioner Hartung is an aye. He'll be casting his vote.
Can you mark your ballots, please?
Okay, looks like we're all marked on this side.
I don't see Commissioner Jung.
She's an
Okay,
aye.
thank you.
All right. Please affirm your votes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, we're on to item 11.
Item 11, public hearing pursuant to NRS 277.050 to consider any objections to the resolution of intent to execute an easement agreement and easement deed between Washoe County and Truckee Meadows Water Authority for an access and water facilities easement totaling plus or minus 11,802 square feet, and a temporary construction easement totaling plus or minus 23,588 square feet on APN 534-521-01, part of Sugarloaf Peak open space at the appraised value of $2,033. Possible approval of said easement agreement and easement deed, and if approved, authorize the chair to execute the agreement and deed to that effect. Community Services.
All right. Commissioner Hartung, this is in your district. Do you have any need for an?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve. This is very pedestrian.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hartung, second from Commissioner Jung. Madam Clerk, do I have any public sign in on the?
No, sir.
All right. Seeing that as public hearing, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes on the screen. All right. Mr. Manager, we're moving quickly. It looks like, from my understanding, there is no need today for item 12. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. It was
No
pulled.
closed session. I know, and we got, so I'm going to take it to our final public comment. Do we have a final public comment?
We do not have anyone signed in, Mr. Chair. However, I did receive correspondence from Anne Marie Grant, which I will place on the record of today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to item 14. And so with this is the commissioners, I'm going to walk down, and I'm going to invite DA Hicks to join me at the podium.
Is this legal?
Well, I am a commissioner. I do have it.
Where's the sheriff? Where's the sheriff?
Well, I'm going to need Sheriff Balaam.
Please remember to identify yourself, sir.
For the record, my name is Lucy. I am a commissioner from District 2. I would like to stage some comments, but really some more of a complaint. And now that I have the district attorney joining me, I feel a little bit more protected about these complaints about a certain individual sitting on this dais with us this morning. He has been with us for quite some time. I've only got the last 5 years to share with him, but he has become a very, very important individual in my life. I think he's done us a great service over the time that he's been here, Mr. Liparelli. Being that this is your last meeting and that you've felt that this is the casual Friday on a Tuesday, we wanted to give you a chance to wish you all the best in your endeavors and your retirement. So prior to that, I want to give Mr. Hicks an opportunity to make a few comments about your tenured service with the DA's office. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you. I'm going to move this. Good morning, Commissioners. I want to thank you all for giving me a few minutes. I wanted to talk a little bit about what Paul Liparelli has meant to my office, has meant to this community, has meant to this body over his long career. So I typed up some notes. I should get you out of here by late afternoon. All joking aside, it really would take that long for me to highlight everything that Paul has done for my office and for this community. It is frankly impossible to do in short order, but I'm going to give it a quick shot. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Paul for over 15 years. In the bulk of that time, he's been the chief legal officer for the county, helping it successfully navigate the many legal challenges that come with such a complex organization. Meanwhile, he has also effectively managed the civil division of the DA's office and all its important departments and duties. I want to touch on a few of his traits that I know all of you can appreciate, having worked with him all these years, that make him the incredible lawyer and leader that he is, and deserving of our deep admiration and gratitude. The first one, his knowledge of the law and his institutional knowledge of the county that I have encountered is really, it's encyclopedic. As many times, I've seen him kind of tap into his mental Rolodex and pull out, without notes, without research, the facts of an issue that the county encountered, what the controlling law was, and then do a quick reasoned analysis of the new issue and how it might compare. It is really an amazing trait. Now, I believe that has something to do with kind of the rather large head he has, but it also really speaks to his extraordinary intellect and his capacity to learn. And I think that that has been driven over the years by the next trait I'd like to talk about, and that's his work ethic. Paul's an absolute workhorse. That derives from his commitment to be the very best lawyer that he can be. And it also derives, luckily for us and important to us, his genuine desire to support good governance in our state, which leads me to the next great quality about him, and that is he's a true public servant. He genuinely wants to work in service to the people of his community. And over the last 28 years, he has helped the citizens of Northern Nevada in so many ways that they will never know through legal guidance he's provided. And the last trait about Paul that I want to discuss is his personality. As we all know here, he has amazing character. His honesty, his trustworthiness, his integrity is second to none. In a world, a professional world that is based on conflict, I have never heard somebody speak ill of him, which is amazing. His interpersonal skills and his calming demeanor are also very effective in the world of county government. If you think about it, over the last 28 years, Paul Liparelli has represented literally dozens and dozens of elected officials. Now, these are unique personalities, driven, dynamic people who have genuine desires to meet the expectations of their constituents and to reinforce their ideals. And these are not the type of people that are easy to give disappointing legal advice. But Paul does so masterfully and honestly. And he does that while maintaining those important relationships. And that often boils down to the last quality I want to talk about, and that's his wit. In addition to his amazing character, Paul is a character. Case in point, his necktie today. He has an impeccable timing to drop a joke or a perfectly placed proverb or saying, just at the right time, under the right circumstances, to add levity to a situation and help you get through it. I remember a time when it was my first term as district attorney. I was not very far into it. We had a very difficult issue in the office. There were not a lot of options, and most of them were bad. And as we were sitting there discussing it, Paul likened the situation to a hog on ice. Now, I'd never heard that saying, but the image immediately popped in my head of a great big hog stranded out on this slick ice, unable to move, unable to be moved. And it was a perfect characterization of what we were dealing with. And it helped us kind of laugh and refocus and get through the issue. And I'm sure all of you have similar stories about Paul. So, on his last BCC meeting, I hope he walks away truly knowing the gratitude felt for him. The other day I overheard Paul say, again in his witty way, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And so in your next step, Paul, we wish you and Carrie the very best, and you will be missed. Thank you.
Well, that was touching. I mean, about an individual that has committed so much selfless acts, but looks like that on a continuous basis. I got to say, Paul, it has been an honor to know and work side by side with you for the last 5 years and have you as my representative from the DA's office and carry us through many legal issues here. I think when Chris speaks of your accolades, the one that sticks in my mind the most is your ability to be selfless. Not only have you represented elected officials, but you've represented every individual in Washoe County for a period of time when it's come to major, major issues. And I want to thank you for that continued commitment and sacrifice that you've made to public service for a life career of that. So with that, I'd like to read a proclamation signed by myself and offered to you on your final commission day. Whereas Paul Liparelli began his career as a Washoe County...
I don't see this on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's not, but it's a commissioner. This is a commissioner manager's announcement.
Note my objection.
Now, this is an announcement. You can file an open meeting claim later on me. Yeah. Whereas Paul Liparelli began his career as a Washoe County District's Attorney Office in May of 1999. Wow, did you have dark hair back then? Good. And prior to that, spent 7 years at the Carson City District Attorney's Office. And whereas Paul's 21 years at the Washoe County has included supervision and management of 3 units of the DA's Civil Division, service to the District Attorney's Executive Management Team, and as Chief Legal Counsel to the Board of County Commissioners and County Manager. And whereas for nearly 3 decades of public service, Paul has served as a Deputy District Attorney, a Chief Deputy District Attorney, and Assistant District Attorney for 3 different district attorneys, spending thousands of hours at public meetings, commissions, and committees providing sound legal assistance and guidance. And whereas during high school, college, and law school, Paul pursued an array of employment opportunities, including a roofer, basketball referee, meter reader, draftsman, water heater wrapper, and auction assistant, which I yet to see at this dais, but I want to see one of these days, hopefully, and a legislative intern. And whereas, after graduating from Carson High School, Paul entered the University of Nevada's College of Business, where he had 4 semesters on the Dean's Honor List, finished in the top 4% of his class, while also minoring in political science, where his emerging interest in law began. Paul then went on to University of Arizona College of Law to earn his Juris Doctorate. And whereas, we greatly admire Paul for his profound intellect, distinct legal acumen, diplomatic communication skills, calm demeanor, and witty sense of humor, which will truly be missed, and commitment to public service, not to mention his notorious cameo in the Sierra Boys Choir in Godfather Part 2. That's the best part, yeah. I have to say, I agree with that. Now, therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim their deepest of gratitude to Paul Liparelli for his contribution and support to Washoe County and Northern Nevada community for over the last 28 years, and let it be resolved that Paul will now enjoy a well-deserved time with his family and friends, golfing, fishing, enjoying Wolfpack athletics, and performing these multitude of handyman services for friends and family for years to come. Dated this 28th day of January 2020, his final meeting with the Washoe County Commission, signed by myself, Bob Lucy. Thank you, Paul. And with that, I'd like to offer all my other commissioners an opportunity to share their thoughts as well. Go ahead. Start on these.
This it? All right. Foremost here, I just want to tell you, you are so cool. And as a fellow Italian, I want you to know you will be greatly missed.
Mr. Liparelli. Paul. Geez, where do I start? Our love for distilled malt beverages. The first thing that I would like to remind you of, and Paul and I have laughed many times on videos on the internet about how to drink scotch properly. And one of them, the fellow reminds everyone not to throw it back like a cowboy. And so I would tell you, don't throw retirement back like a cowboy. Savor it, because it will go quickly. This is a great time where you can really do a lot of things that you've wanted to do for a long time, just didn't have the opportunity, the time. And you can always get dragged back into work, but try to resist that. And I know work will keep you sharp. Mr. Hicks, you brought up his recall. His recall is amazing. I don't think I've known anyone quite as sharp as you, Mr. Liparelli, in terms of recall. It's fast. You remember names. You remember dates. You remember specific instances. And when I can't remember what I had for breakfast, and it just astounds me. Commissioners, I think you can all sort of relate to this. Mr. Liparelli, you've pulled me over so many times that my auto insurance rate went through the roof. Blessedly, there were no tickets, but my insurance agent was watching constantly. And it's good because you pulled us over gently. To say that you're my friend is putting it lightly. I will miss this part of our relationship dearly, but I know that we'll be able to spend some personal time that we have not had an opportunity to enjoy. I don't know if you have any hobbies, but distilling fine scotches or whiskeys is always out there for you. You have that type of personality where you can do those very very detailed types of fun things, and you can do them well. And so I'm looking forward to the next chapter. I totally admire the bolo tie, but I hope that this doesn't mean that you're moving to Story County. Because some of the fixing old clocks. No, fixing old clocks is that's one we can have fun with. I don't know what else to say, Mr. Liparelli, Paul, other than thank you. Thanks for being here for us. You've treated each of us like a dear, long family friend, and in some of the advice that you've given us, and I genuinely appreciate your wise counsel, and it will not go unnoticed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Madam Vice Chair.
Paul, we're going to miss you so much. You know, I really appreciated Mr. Hicks talking about your sense of humor. I think that's one of the things that has been the most delightful experience for me, is your sense of humor. And everything about you, your good advice and everything else. One of the things that I remember best about you is, I think it was like maybe the third or fourth meeting after I got elected as commissioner, and we were in a legal session, and the subject of some other municipality in our great state violating the open meeting law. And you said, well, I don't expect that from you guys, because if you do, I will get up on the table and dance back and forth on the table, and then I'll leave, and you guys will be in trouble by yourself. And I think that just sort of painted a picture for me of you dancing on the table, yelling at us about open meeting law, and it stuck with me, and I think it stuck with all of us. And I appreciate everything else that you've done. It's been a great experience, and I hope you have a wonderful vacation. And I mean, a wonderful retirement, not vacation. Stay in the retirement area. But I'll tell you this. I think it's really sad that you started with the county with a full head of dark hair and now you're gray, but you could be grateful for the fact that you weren't in the cable business, because look at the manager. So there are some things to be grateful for, that you were just in the government business and not the cable business, where you really had to snatch your head bald. Anyway, good luck, great fun, take care, and I know we'll see you.
Commissioner Jung, the one
Sorry,
has,
I jumped the gun.
I know, you
Sorry,
st-
Mr. Chairman, I probably scared the heck out of you a little bit.
but you spent the longest amount of time with him, so you've
I
been
have
as our
spent
longest
the
tenured
longest
commissioner.
tenure with Mr. Paul Liparelli, and I say the same. I appreciate your wise counsel, but more importantly, I appreciate your friendship. And you're wonderful to argue with, and thank you for putting up with me, because I am the famous commissioner that says, well, the way I read the law is, and of course, he doesn't have the rudeness to say, and what law school did you go to? Instead, he lets me go on and on with all my wild law knowledge, which is zero, well, and watching TV shows, and suffered me just so politely, and I don't even do it anymore. That's not the way I read the wall. When I say that, that's shorthand for me to just zip it and listen to the man who actually did study law. So I really appreciate you. I consider you a friend. I love sharing recipes with you. We both love fine dining, and we both love to cook, and that's really what we bonded over, and you will be sorely missed here. And I love your sense of humor, and I love your great memory and your kindness. I love the way you parent. I've seen you with your boy, and I'm sure we'll see you around. You're too young to really, really retire, so I'll see you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. All right, with that, we will, seeing no other further announcements, unless Mr. Liparelli, you'd want to add something to this little
If
diatribe.
you don't mind, I got a few things to get off my chest.
All right, then.
I've been waiting
Well, by
for
all means,
21
have at it,
years.
sir.
21 years I've been waiting for this.
Forever. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it's true that I have a hidden sense of humor that not a lot of people see publicly. When I first came to work in the DA's office in 1999, there were several of the folks there who later thought that I starched my underwear. They thought I was kind of a stiff. So it took me a while to expose folks to the kind of things that make me laugh and keep me going. First, I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Hicks. That was a very sweet statement you made. If I could get a copy, I think I can have someone use it at my funeral. I got to hear it live, which was nice, but very, very, very sweet. And Chris is the kind of guy anyone would want to work for. He's kind. He's focused on doing the right thing. He has the right attitude and demeanor. He's supported me in every way that I've ever needed, being his assistant DA. And Chris and I talk a lot about Dick Gamick, who hired both of us at the DA's office. So I have to stop and thank Dick Gamick for giving me the opportunity to work for Washoe County. I've never had to worry about my boss questioning my giving advice to the county clients. They've always permitted us in the civil division to do the right thing, and that's a privilege that not all lawyers have. Some lawyers who work for clients who want a certain outcome have to deal with that kind of stress, and we always just got to do the right thing. So thank you, Chris, for always being that guy. The bolo tie is a tribute to the folks I work with back in the civil division. Mike Large, you guys know Mr. Large, as we like to call him, Miguel Grande. He was asking me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said, you know, all I've ever wanted was a bolo tie with a scorpion in it. And lo and behold, it showed up, and that is emblematic of the folks that I work with. If you just mention something that you need, they're the kind of folks that'll just jump on it and get it done. So while I'm a little melancholy and excited about leaving, I know that I'm leaving you in good hands, because that team of folks that Mr. Hicks has assembled in the civil division, I'd put up against anybody in town. They're the best law firm there is, and they're good folks. So I'm excited about what's ahead for me. I've got a few ideas. I'm going to do some welding, which I don't know how to do, but you know, working with hot metals has got to be easier than working with elected officials. I also have the thought that I might do some radio voiceovers and maybe some baseball announcing just a bit outside.
Megan Merkel's already got you beat.
Right?
Yeah, she's already got Disney timed up.
Or I was also thinking of food truck. I'm a big fan of gravy, and so I'm thinking about a food truck kind of centered around gravy, which, you know, Commissioner, you noted earlier, I started out with dark hair, and I did, and I also, I used to have a little bit different kind of a waistline than I do right now, so all those years have taken their toll on me, and, you know, why not do what you're good at, right, Commissioner? You brought it up earlier, the Italian love of cooking and those kind of shared heritage. So gravy truck might, and if I wouldn't mind the extra publicity, if I get that off the ground, I'll come in and speak under public comment right after Sam Dene and get a pitch in for the food truck. But commissioners, yeah, I more than anyone except maybe Mr. Brown knows the work that goes on behind the scenes of county commissioners, and you don't get a lot of pay and a lot of glory and a lot of praise for what you do, but you do it for the right reasons. You're committed to helping the community. Mr. Hicks was right. I've seen my job really as public service, and even though I've never run for office and had a single person vote for me, I've always felt the obligation that I think you all feel to serve the people that put us here. And so it's been an honor. It's my life's work, and I got to be pretty good at it over the years, and I appreciate all the kindnesses you've shared today, and I'm looking forward to watching you go on and do great things. Thanks very much.
No.
No, I have a question for Mr. Liparelli, and this is, maybe it's more of a statement. This is a true demonstration of his humility. For Christmas, he asked for a bolo tie with a scorpion, and he said that his colleagues would go to bat at any time or you know, try to fulfill that. I would have asked for a Bentley.
I know.
Not a bolo tie with a scorpion, Mr. Liparelli.
I have to agree with Commissioner Hartung. That's just kind of shooting across. That's really not, we got to work on that aim, but
It's a demonstration of his humility.
maybe
Mr.
shooting
Chair.
might be something you might practice in your end. Well, we thank you, Paul, and for all your time and commitment here at the county. We wish you well and all the best to you in your retirement. So with that, we will adjourn Mr. Liparelli's final meeting. Thank you very much. All right, let's take a picture. Let's have everybody come down and take a picture with Paul.